Hey, what's going on? It's Brian Dawson. Thanks for tuning in to another segment of Triangle Empowered. This week and the entire month, we're focusing on a very serious subject, a subject that we hope to educate you a lot about, and that's human trafficking. All right, January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. This is a very serious subject, so we had to go get an expert on this cause, okay? Good friend of mine has joined us, no stranger to the show. Her name is Kiricka Yarbough Smith. So hold on, Kiricka, let me get your title down because I like to give you all the credit that you're supposed to have. She is the Human Trafficking Program Director with the North Carolina Council for Women and Youth Involvement and the North Carolina Department of Administration. How are you today, Kiricka?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing?
I love talking to you. You're so knowledgeable about this subject, and there's a lot of things that we need to make sure that we break down. So today we're going to concentrate on myths versus facts.
Absolutely. I am, Brian.
Okay. All right. So let's start with the first one. Most human trafficking situations involve kidnapping.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think everything that we see on social media tells us that, there's a stranger in a white van that's riding around kidnapping kids and people, or, you've probably seen the ones where people have notes on people's cars and all of those things. But that's not actually how we see most human trafficking happening. So, Brian, most of the time in human trafficking is someone that people know. It's not really that stranger danger that we've been taught. It's, it could be a relative, a friend, a parent. Sometimes we've seen teachers, doctors. So it could be a lot of different people. So we want to make sure that people are aware that you also need to be paying attention to the people that you know, not just the people that are strangers.
Right. Okay, great. Great answer. Myth versus fact. Human trafficking involves moving, traveling, or transporting a person across state or national borders.
So that's a really tricky one. I think a lot of people have that idea that because it's human trafficking, you hear the word trafficking, right, Brian, and you automatically think that means somebody's being moved from place to place. But when we're talking about human trafficking, a person can be trafficked right in their own home. They never have to leave. A lot of times people are bringing people in and out of their home. They may not be in their home. They may be in a hotel room, but they might be in their same city. So it doesn't require transportation or movement of a person for trafficking to occur.
Now, we only have a few more myths versus facts left, but I just want to make sure in case somebody jumped in or they have to jump out. Anybody who wants any information about what we're talking about, what should they do?
They should absolutely go to our website at the councilforwomen.gov, and you can just type in human trafficking and they will find lots of information about this topic.
And we're talking about myths versus facts. Only women and girls can be victims and survivors of sex trafficking.
Absolutely. So while we see a lot of women and girls who are survivors of human trafficking, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week, Brian, that we see more women and girls of color as well, we still have a lot of males and boys who are victims of trafficking. And so a lot of times we forget about that and we're not looking for the men and boys, but we've had girls who were identified, say, for instance, in a foster home where there were boys who were also being trafficked, but no one identified the boys.
Wow. Okay, number 4, let me make sure I get this correct. People being trafficked are physically unable to leave their situations, locked in, held against their will.
So I think that's probably, for me, one of the biggest misconceptions about human trafficking is that people are automatically being held like in chains or whips, every picture. Right? Every picture you see of a trafficking situation, somebody has on chains or they're behind bars or something. But when we look at human trafficking, Brian, that's probably one of the very few ways that it occurs. It's more that psychological control. So where the chains are is on their minds. Right. And so it's really just kind of capturing a person's mindset and really keeping them from feeling like they can do something different or making them feel like that person loves them and is going to take care of them when actually all they want to do is exploit them and use them.
Now, we're running down myths versus facts. Again, some people may be checking in or checking out. If anybody got any questions about the subjects that we're talking about, what do you suggest they do?
Absolutely. They can go to the Council for Women's website and just type in human trafficking. And that is one of the ways that they'll find lots of information about this subject. They can also go to the National Human Trafficking Hotline website, and it's Polaris is the name of that. And they can go there and get lots of great information as well.
Thank you, Kiricka. Just 2 more questions left. And I'm sure this next one came from somebody watching too much TV, but only people from other countries are trafficking.
Well, the movie Taken, everyone I feel like has seen the movie Taken. Right? It's a great movie, but it's not factual. So one of the things that we've seen quite a bit is that with that movie, it has people thinking that there's going to be someone who kind of kidnaps a person. They're in another country and they're going to be kind of rescued by their CIA father or something. We don't see any of this when we talk about human trafficking. But what I can tell you is that North Carolina consistently ranks in the top 10 states for trafficking most likely to occur. And the other thing about that, Brian, is I've been doing human trafficking work for probably about 15 years now in North Carolina, and that's been my sole career. Wow. And it's been people who we've had more cases of people who were born in the U.S., trafficked in the U.S. than anything else.
Wow. Okay. All right. Last question. And this is a very interesting one. I mean, all of them are important, but I definitely want to get this one in. All human trafficking involves sex.
Absolutely. So when we talk about human trafficking, we have more than one form of human trafficking. We do have sex trafficking, but the thing that we don't talk about as much, and it actually happens often more times than sex trafficking, is labor trafficking. And so that's when someone is kind of forced, whether it's through fraud or fooled or coerced into performing labor services, and they either don't get paid, they get paid very little, they're held against their will. So all of those things happen when we talk about trafficking, not just sex trafficking.
Right. Now, of course, we got to make sure we get this out there because it's probably the most important thing we're going to talk about. Somebody may see something. Of course, we want you to report it, but seeing the signs are very important. If someone sees something and they need to report it, or if they're going through this in their life right now, tell them what you suggest that they do.
Absolutely. I always suggest the best thing to do is to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And although that hotline is national, they have all of their contacts across our state so that they can report whether it's to law enforcement or a social service provider. And so let me give you that number. Yeah. So they can call 1-888-373-7888. And then they can also text. So one great thing about the national hotline is they can text the number 233-733, and they can text "Be Free" to that number.
Right. Now, a lot of people are scared to come out, though. Is it discreet? Is it something that they can share information with?
A great question. Absolutely. So they can actually call anonymously, and they don't have to share their contact information and just say, I'm seeing this or witnessing this in my community or next door neighbor. They don't have to give their name or anything.
Your passion for this subject matter is so touching, Kiricka. Thank you so much for joining me today. Of course, this entire month, every week, we're focusing on this. I hate when we just say 1 month, but right. This is about the awareness of a very important subject. So, Kiricka, thank you for joining me today on Triangle Empower.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me.